Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Sandra Murman. Representing District 2, Victor Christ. Representing District 3, Les Miller. Representing District 4, Stacy White. Representing Countywide District 5, Ken Hagan. Representing Countywide District 6, Pat Kemp. Representing Countywide District 7, Al Higginbotham. The County Administrator is Mike Merrill. The County Attorney is Christine Beck. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue. So we have time for everyone. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning by Hillsborough Television.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, July 18th, and we're going to start with our pledge and our invocation from our chaplain, Commissioner Stacy White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, here in America, we have the best governmental process on the planet, and I just ask, Lord, that you offer your blessings to this board, our staff, and our stakeholders as this governmental process is at work today. Lord, I ask for your blessings for our young and upcoming leaders in this country, a couple of which I will introduce in just a moment. And Lord, as always, I pray for the members of our armed forces and our first responders. I pray, Lord, that each and every day that you will keep them safe and guide them and comfort them and deliver them home safely to their families each and every day. I ask for all of these blessings in your heavenly name. Amen. Amen. And Madam Chair, if I may, while I still have the floor, I would like to introduce a couple of guests that I have here today.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Have a longtime friend, a very dear friend of mine, Audra Bartling. She is here today with a couple of Boy Scouts from Troop 661, Scouts Zachary and Matthew. They are working on their citizenship in the community, which is an Eagle Scout badge, and they're here to observe our meeting today. So thank you so much for being here today to observe this process.
Great. Are they here?
They are. Boys, if you'd like to stand up and wave to the board and to the audience.
Please stand.
Thank you so much for being here.
Great.
We'll give them a round of applause.
Absolutely. These Eagle Scout badges are great works they do in the community. We do have 2 presentations today. I will give the first one. Commissioner White will give the second one. Okay, this is always a great presentation that I feel so honored to make to recognize people with disabilities in our community. It's very, very important. The proclamation I'm going to present is going to go to the Hillsborough County Joint Alliance for Citizens with Disabilities. And today we have Julie Reyes. She's the Diversity Action Coalition and Hillsborough County Alliance for Citizens with Disabilities co-chair. That is a long title. Ms. Melinda Wheatley, is she here yet? Okay. She is actually the other co-chair with Julie Reyes. Ben Ritter, Florida Gulf Coast Paralyzed Veterans of America. We're so happy to see you, Ben. Ms. Sandra Soroka, League of Women Voters of Hillsborough County. Great to see you, Sandra, and the work you've done here at the county. Mr. Justin Clerk, he is the director of the Florida Spinal Cord Injury Resource Center. Ms. Brittany Bush, the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. Mr. Virgil Perry, he's the Diversity Action Coalition Chair representing people with disabilities. Ms. Cheryl Brown, Lighthouse for the Blind, she may be here. Ms. Brenda Clark, she's the Project Director in Employment Services, and our Hillsborough County ADA Coordinator. And if anyone would like to please come on up to stand with me up here at the podium. This is the 28th anniversary for the Americans with Disabilities Act. Hillsborough County reinforces its commitment to providing equality in all services, programs, and activities for all our clients. With recreations programs at our All People's Life Center, that has been a showcase facility for therapeutic programs since it opened in 2007. The Paralympic Sports Tampa Bay provides year-round sports, recreation programs, and competitive sports opportunities. The BOCC Equestrian Center hosts riding lessons for children and adults with disabilities. Camp Sparks offers after-school and summer camps for youth with disabilities ages 5 to 22. And, of course, our own Hillsborough County Public Libraries also provide accessibility services for all residents, including Braille, the large books with Braille. The government services are many. I mean, this is a very, very active American with Disabilities group we have here in Hillsborough County. We have backdoor trash collection services. It's a free service that we offer residents who are physically unable to place their garbage outside. Financial assistance is available to income and special needs eligible homeowners. The Sunshine Line, of course, which is our great transportation service for residents with disabilities, where they can apply and get door-to-door transportation for the elderly, low income, and people with disabilities. And of course, I do want to say we are in the storm season, and hurricanes are always a threat to us. I want to encourage everyone who has a disability to please register for our special needs disaster assistance if you require extra attention to stay safe during our storms. We do have this program in place, and it is very active. So with that, I will present this proclamation, and it says, whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of people with disabilities. Whereas the law prohibits discrimination and mandates reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities to ensure everyone has full access to resources and facilities. Whereas the principles of the Act foster equality and inclusion for people with disabilities. Whereas the Hillsborough County Alliance for Citizens with Disabilities enhances local compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act and advocates on behalf of people with disabilities. Whereas the programs and services such as the Disability Awareness Expo, the Alliance engages the public, raises awareness about the needs and resources for people with disabilities. Whereas this year's Disability Awareness Expo recognizes the 28th anniversary of the passage of the American with Disabilities Act with the theme, Rev Up, Register, Educate, Vote, Use Your Power. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida does hereby declare July 27, 2018 as Americans with Disability Act Awareness Day here in Hillsborough County, urges all residents to celebrate the 28th anniversary of the passage of the law by reaffirming their commitment to its principles by supporting equality and inclusion for people with disabilities. And of course, it is signed by all 7 county commissioners and presented to you.
Okay, and Melinda's here too.
And Melinda?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So please, if you'd like to say a few
I
words.
would like to say, Commissioner Murman, and all commissioners here present and signing this proclamation. It gives us the honor and pleasure to be able to serve our community with disabilities and all inclusion for all. Melinda, do you have some words to say?
I just want to thank the commission as well and invite everybody to join us next Friday and downstairs in County Center for the
Celebration.
Celebration, yes.
Very good.
Please join us.
Okay, thank you. Y'all, let's take a picture.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Okay, done. Lift back up. We're going to go.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to recognize my friend Melissa Hartmann this morning. I've gotten to know Melissa out in the community, particularly through the local chambers of commerce, especially in her role as the 2016 honorary mayor of Riverview. And as you all know, these honorary mayor races raise a lot of money for charities and for great causes out in our communities. And when I was chatting with Melissa recently out into the community, I learned about something very unique and also very special that she does, and I wanted to recognize her for that this morning. So Melissa, I'd like to invite you up. Where are you? There you are. And if you'd like to have your guests come up as well, your mother and father, Barbara and Pete Pirelli. You have your daughter, Whitney Ray, with us this morning. Your best friend, Anita Astacion. And then we also have some of your colleagues at the Osprey Observer. Did Marie Gilmore make it? Is Marie out? Yeah. There you are. Carrie Honing and Tricia Becker. And I'm just going to dive right into reading this commendation because it sort of speaks for itself about this unique activity that you're involved in that benefits our community so much. And then I'll invite you to say a few words about what you're doing out there in the community. So this is a commendation for Melissa Hartmann. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is pleased to recognize Melissa Hartmann for her philanthropic work in donating food and other life-sustaining items to those in need. Ms. Hartmann is well known for her three passions: her family, her work at the Osprey Observer, and couponing, which she has practiced for nearly 40 years. In her eyes, couponing is more than a cost-cutting technique. It is an art form that is instrumental in helping those with limited budgets. Every week, Ms. Hartmann performs her 5-hour ritual with unwavering dedication. Her custom includes collecting coupons from up to 8 Sunday newspapers, matching them with sales ads, and collecting and storing all food, household, and health items at no or minimal cost to herself. Her best reward, however, is donating her coupon groceries to those in need, such as Riverview Mobile Park seniors and Lithia residents who were without power for days after Hurricane Irma. Although she doesn't consider herself financially wealthy, Ms. Hartmann feels rich in spirit for giving back and supporting her community. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida does hereby commend Melissa Hartmann for her generosity and applauds her novel methods that have positively impacted those in need. It's dated today, of course, signed by all 7 commissioners. That is really such a cool thing that you do for the community. I really felt like it was worth this recognition, and I'd love to have you say a few more words about it. And congratulations on being commended for that.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. Thank you. I don't know really what to say. I always say I'm not rich in money, but I am rich in skills. And anybody who coupons should be giving back. It started with the nurses at Moffitt who are going on a mission trip. And my daughter came and raided my shelves for the nurses' bags to go on their mission trip. And from giving back then, I still continue to give back today. I just paired up with Kendra Wilson with the Lotus Foundation, and I'll be doing feminine products for women. So if you have coupons, send them to the Osprey Observer. The more coupons I have, the more people I can reach. It's just something I do. I don't look for recognition. It's just what should be done when people coupon. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Listen, let's present this to you and have a picture, and the whole crowd's welcome. All your guests. Oh, yeah.
So awesome. I love getting your emails. Thank you, Commissioner White, and Melissa, congratulations on all she does. Mr. Merrill, would you like to review the changes to the agenda?
Yes, I will. We have nothing added to the agenda, nothing being deferred. We have 3 revisions, which are all just changes in the time certains. That's for B18, which is being moved from 11 a.m. to 10:45. That's the report on the county's annual financial report. B19 is being moved from 11:15 to 11 a.m. That's the county audit report on the Indigent Care Healthcare Surtax Trust Fund. And B20 being moved also from 11:15 to 11 a.m. That's the audit report on the Development Services mobility fees. As I said, nothing was removed from consent for discussion or highlighting. We have just a couple of time certains beginning at 10 a.m. We have 2 public hearings. Yes, beginning at 10 a.m. D1 is a public hearing to consider amending the county's ordinances pertaining to the regulation of rave dance hall establishments. And the second public hearing would establish solid waste non-ad valorem disposal and collection assessment rates. There is no increase in any rates or fees in our solid waste system. 10:15 is item F1. That's Commissioner Chris' item to receive a presentation from Martine Collier, Executive Director of the Arts Council. 10:30 F2 is Commissioner Miller's item. That's to discuss the PACE program. 10:45 item B18. That's the item I mentioned earlier concerning the county's comprehensive annual financial report. And then at 11, 2 items, B19 and 20, which are the 2 county audit reports. Those are the changes to the agenda.
Okay. Need a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner White to approve changes to the agenda. Please record your vote.
Sandy.
Commissioner Higginbotham.
Motion
you're
carried,
recognized.
7-0.
I'm sorry.
No, after the vote.
Okay. Commissioner Higginbotham, you're recognized.
Thank you. I want to make a comment about Mosey here for just a moment. As we know, they have been through some tough times, and Mosey, under the leadership of Julian McKenzie, as the new executive director, has done a remarkable job. Has turned this thing around, and Robert Thomas has been the chairman for the board and has done a great job as well. we all know I'm leaving in November, but my schedule has made it such that I'm not going to be able to attend the remaining board meetings during now and November, and I think it's too important that we not have a representative. So I need to step down and ask if there's someone here who would like to take my place.
I'll take it.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller, you're recognized.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Very, very good. And I'll be glad, if sunshine permits, to kind of give you some insight. But you'll enjoy working with Julian and the other board members there. Thank you.
Okay, very good. That was easy. Thank you for all your work you've done on Mosey. You
welcome.
have certainly taken it through some turbulent times, and I think we have a really good product now for the public.
If you haven't been out there, you need to
Yeah,
go out
it's
and see
great.
the new.
Yeah, it's
cool.
really good.
Really great.
It's really changed, and it's got a good future ahead of it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going into the public comment portion of the meeting. The board welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing input to the board members. However, it is requested at the same time when you address the board that comments are not directed personally against the commissioner or a staff member, but rather directed at the issues. This provides a mutual respect between the board members and the public. The board has set aside a 45-minute period in the morning immediately following changes to the agenda for public comments. At the discretion of the chair, the board may again hear public comments at the end of the meeting. People wishing to speak before the board during the public comment portion of the meeting should complete the electronic request form for public comment located in the lobby just outside the boardroom. Citizens speaking on scheduled agenda items will be heard before citizens speaking on non-scheduled agenda items. And when addressing the board, please state your name and speak clearly into the microphone, and 3 minutes will be allowed for each speaker. And our first for on the agenda items is Bernice Jackson, followed by Denise Andretta, Beth Veneman.
With your permission, I'd like to ask for my friend Denise to speak first, and then I'll speak after her, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I need you to lock that so I can stand there.
Okay, we have some assistance we can give her.
One second.
If she'd like to stay in your wheelchair.
No, I'm fine. Once I'm up, I'm fine.
Okay,
Just
great.
getting here.
Well, take your time. Thank you. And you are Denise Andretta.
I'm Denise Andretta, a member of
Good
St.
morning.
James House of Prayer Episcopal Church, a member of Congregation of Hope. Everyone deserves a decent, affordable place to call home, and yet we know our county has a housing crisis. The general rule is families should spend no more than 30% of their gross income on housing. But in Hillsborough County, over 100,000 families, that's 100,000 families, spend over 50% of their income on housing. We know the new developments downtown and all around the county are not going to be affordable for these families. The rent average on a two-bedroom apartment in this county is over $1,000 a month. Even studios are renting for $1,000. You have to make at least $40,000 a year to afford that rent. So many people are struggling to pay for their housing. Spending 30 to 50% on housing forces families to choose between groceries and medical care. Repeatedly moving children out of schools to chase rents, hurting their academic success. Facing long commutes to and from work, causing tardiness, the stress of traffic congestion, and adding vehicle maintenance costs to an already tight budget. And who are these workers? Well, it's the person at the front desk in the luxury hotel downtown. It's the nurse's aide who cares for you and your loved ones while you're in the hospital. It's the person who takes a ticket to football and hockey games. It's the school bus driver who takes your children and grandchildren to and from school. It's the single mother who teaches your children also. These individuals work hard to make our county an affordable place to live. So many of them are struggling to afford a decent place to call home. We have a crisis. Besides the cost burden so many families experience, the county's own research shows 5,000 families live in substandard, overcrowded housing. That's not people, that's families. At least 122,000 people are at risk of homelessness, and 30,000 at risk of homelessness are children. Our county needs your leadership. Our county needs significant ongoing local dedicated funds.
Thank you very much.
Everyone deserves a decent place to stay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Bernice Jackson will be the next speaker, followed by Beth Bieneman and Char Lurch. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Bernice Powell Jackson. I'm pastor of First United Church of Tampa, and I'm a vice president of Hope. Our county needs to make an ongoing financial commitment in the budget to housing to tackle this priority need. We need ongoing dedicated funding to meet the enormous affordable housing needs of our county. It will take a long-term investment, for the need is great and has taken us many years to get to this point. The development and rehab of affordable housing must have consistent funding for planning. A local trust fund with dedicated housing, ongoing funding would give our county the opportunities to significantly tackle our growing housing crisis. It would not lock us in. And you can designate a proven county agency accountable to you, like the Department of Affordable Housing Services or the Housing Finance Authority, to administer such a fund. We recognize that there is funding recommended in this budget, yet we are asking you today to make a significant long-term commitment to increasing decent affordable housing for working families with low incomes in our county by establishing a housing fund of ongoing dedicated funding to develop the needed housing for our families and for the economic vitality of our county. Dedicated ongoing funds mean that you see the seriousness of the problem, establishing a way for builders to plan for the creation of more decent affordable housing. Such a fund with sustaining local revenue can tackle the current crisis and avoid future ones. And viable local funding revenue sources do exist. You, as our county commissioners, can decide to dedicate ongoing local public revenues annually for affordable housing to meet the housing needs of the most vulnerable among us, those who are our working families and seniors and people with disabilities with low incomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Beth Bieneman and then Char Lurch. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Beth Bieneman. I'm a member of St. Mark's Episcopal Church, and we're a member congregation of Hope, the Hillsborough Organization for Progress and Equality. Every family deserves a place to call home. Every family. It is good to see that the recommended county budget for 2019 reflects $3 million in local funds for affordable housing. We appreciate this important step in the right direction. But $3 million is not nearly enough to meet the great need of working families. This county needs to make a more significant investment in affordable housing. More than 200,000 families in Hillsborough County spend 30% or more of their income on housing. 100,000 families spend 50% or more of their income on housing. And at least 75% of these working families have low-income jobs, and they struggle to cover their family's expenses. In addition, over 10,000 families sit on an affordable housing wait list, a list that has been closed for 8 years. Our county just does not have enough available housing that's affordable. We know we can't depend on insufficient and unreliable federal or state funding to fix this crisis. Therefore, this board needs to decide to tackle this ongoing and increasing need through a truly significant financial commitment. An annual $10 million investment in affordable housing would enable developers to leverage another $50 to $85 million of private and public funds, which would create 700 additional housing units a year. The construction of affordable housing will bring economic development through more jobs, increased business, and additional tax revenue. We believe that a locally controlled and dedicated public fund of $10 million annually that then leverages public and private partnerships to develop safe, decent, affordable housing is critical to the success of children and families in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Char Lurch. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Char Lurch, a parishioner of Nativity Catholic Church in Brandon, and our congregation is a member of Hope as well. Every family deserves a place to call home. Our community is pleased to see that the 2019 recommended county budget reflects steps toward addressing our critical housing needs by recommending $3 million local funds for affordable housing. I want you to know we sincerely appreciate this step, but I have some questions. How do you propose the recommended $3 million will be used and monitored? We haven't seen any guidelines showing how it will meet the county's housing needs or how it will be evaluated. A county ordinance which can be passed by this board can give flexibility to meet our local needs by defining eligibility requirements and funding activities and distribution of funds to meet our housing needs. A county ordinance can establish a local housing fund clarifying how the money can be used, what income level is prioritized, who can get it and how they apply for it, how it is monitored, and who it is administered to. At one of the May BOCC meetings, we gave each of you a packet with several sample ordinances passed by other counties. Hillsborough County can do this too. We can define how to meet our needs. An ordinance can establish a local housing fund of dedicated ongoing $10 million funding to promote the construction, rehabilitation, and preservation of quality housing, affordable for working families and seniors with low incomes, prioritizing families at 50% and below the AMI where the need is the greatest. We want our county to make a significant investment in housing, defining how it will be used, and then monitor it so it is used to meet the need. As you heard Beth say, a significant $10 million public investment in affordable housing would enable developers to leverage another $50 to $85 million of private and additional public funds, which would develop 700 additional housing units a year. You, as our commissioners, can establish a fund dedicating local private public revenue of $10 million annually, and this will begin to make a difference in addressing our growing crisis, and through an ordinance define how the money is used to meet the critical housing needs of working families with low incomes who contribute to the economic vitality of our county. I am confident that we will accomplish this in our county and that we will grow into a community where residents can afford to work and live. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to off the agenda speakers. Bill Johnson.
Good morning, Morning, Commissioners. My name is Bill Johnson. I'm at 8614 Parkway Circle in Riverview. I was given 5 years ago a FEMA grant. I've been here before the board at these various meetings over the 5 years trying to get my FEMA grant, which included demolition of my property and rebuilding of a new home. So what I'm here for today is, I know there's a lot of negativity that I've sat through a few of these meetings, and I got to thank every one of you for various things that have come across that you've had to sign to approve my project. I'd like to thank Mr. Merrill. There's a few other gentlemen. I'd like to thank Mr. John Lyons, Mr. Jim Hudock, Cameron Clark, who's one of the attorneys here at Hillsborough County, Mr. Eugene Henry, and Mr. William Twait. And I must say about Mr. Gene Henry and William Twait, I've never seen two gentlemen that know more than these two gentlemen know and have taken me to the finish line here on this project today. So I want to thank all the inspectors. The inspector team is great. The building department, Mr. Blank, for his help in this project. The permitting people, and if I could give you all a plaque, I'd give it to you right now and put it up there on the wall for a good job that you all have brought this to the finish line. I want to thank you and Mr. Merrill and all your staff for this project. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. We really appreciate your comments. And Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Boy, it's great, really refreshing to hear, positive comments like that during board comments. So, Mr. Merrill, Ms. Beck, if you would, please make sure that those staff members, are recognized and that the message gets passed along, that they had some kind words said about them. And attaboy, keep up the good work.
Okay, Joanne O'Brien is the next speaker, followed by Booth and Jeff Hancock.
Thank you.
Morning, Joanne.
Good morning. Joanne O'Brien, 6916 Thrasher Drive, Tampa, 33610. The reason I'm here today is about childcare. What I would like to see when you people, you commissioners, have your workshops, that some more possible rules and regulations be put into place as far as the inspectors coming out to inspect daycares or do spot inspections, because people in daycare know approximately when they're coming every quarter, and they scramble to get their fire drills done and, spiffy up their place. I've been in that business for about 20 years, and I can honestly say there have been some issues, whereas I feel as we age in childcare, we people should have physicals. I'm sure the bus drivers in this county get physicals every year in order to drive children to school, and I think this is one of the things that should be put in place for daycare providers, to have physicals, because some people, when they're 84 years old, I don't think they should be running a daycare when you come in and the place smells and you find maggots in the garbage can. They had rat and pest issues, which were taken care of. I can go on and on. I was down to child care licensing the other day. I don't know if anything was done about it, because the woman, she tells little fibs when they get there, and I couldn't condone that, and I no longer work in the child care field. Our children are our future, but when you see a rat dropping on the floor and a kid picking it up, that just totally disgusts me and turns me off. And when these inspectors do their inspections, they need to go through the toy boxes, because you have little kids that will put like matchbook toys in their mouths. What if a wheel comes off and they can choke on it? I've pulled stuff out of toy boxes and thrown them away, only to have the daycare provider pick them out of the garbage. So, these are things, when you have a workshop, I would like to possibly sit in on it And there's way much more to it. Thank you, and have a good day for listening.
Thank you, Joanne, and please report those to, the proper authorities when you see. Okay, great. Booth? Good morning.
Good morning. I am Worldwide Global Sovereign Despot Johnny Bernard Booth, Uniform Commercial Code 1-308. I'm going to read this. Okay. Sovereign Worldwide Global American Kingdom. First free people, first living entity. Kingdom, kingdomhood, first nation, first foreign acceptance on earth, first real true law. Law on earth. Note to never be confused with policy. Established 2014. Real actual law. Law went online January 1st, 2018. Lands invaded in the 1400s, now free people, as intended by our Creator, Most High Elion, Yud-He-Wah-He, Yahweh. And for visitors, free people, independent, as the Declaration of Independence of 1776 stated clearly, for the living record, living will, a free people, King George is not fit to rule nor lead a free people. Redeemed, freed by Abraham Lincoln, free, not bonded. Okay, sovereign despot, HDC, King, Prince Elohim, Yahim, Johnny B. Boo, UCC 1-308, former UCC 1.207. Without prejudice, 2018, end dead time. Living entity, secured creditor, sovereign authority, worldwide global law enforcement, sovereign political power holder, autonomous, cosmopolitan, self-governed, international, local, universal, galactic, cosmic, jurisdiction overall, free entry and exit to seeking freedom commission, sole lawful lawmaker, giver, issuer, sole lawful issuer, creator of lawful currency, federally, internationally, globally, international, instrumental. I am king, UCC 1-08. All absolute sovereign immunities, rights, forever reserved, 2018. Okay, PIMP. Peacefully I am protesting. A world release. King Boo, living, reigning king. Global collaboration and awakening. And attention and awareness of thyself. Worldwide global sovereign movement. AIM. American determination. Public law 93-638. Free nonprofit. Family not business. Kingdom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jeff Hancock? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Hancock, for the record. Can I tape this, record this?
I mean, it's already recorded.
Well, I need to record it so,
Sure.
my words would not be edited.
Yes.
If there was any intent on that. Okay, as many of y'all know, I was here May 4th, 2016.
Could you state your name, please?
My name is Jeff Hancock, for the record.
Thank you.
As many of you know, I was here before May 4th, 2016, and because of the censorship at the local level, the cover-up for the government media complex, Grady C. Judd's first bid for sheriff, which is the evidence inside of here, where he scrutinizes evidence on television. An hour and a half after my mother's arrest, the state dropped all charges on her. Therefore, he violated due process law and equal protections of the law. And because of this governmental media complex cover-up, Patricia Jeanette Faust, who is my soulmate, my best friend in life, was a U.S. government media complex murder for hire. Perpetrators are individuals of the Winter Haven Hospital, the Kindred Hospital in St. Pete, Florida, and individuals in the 10th Judicial District in Polk County, Florida. I'm not going to, this is not a courtroom, but I've contacted the FBI even 5 days before her murder for hire at Kindred Hospital in St. Pete, Florida. Up to date, they have not taken my statement. Neither has Mr. Dix at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement or the Florida State's Attorney's Office. And because of the censorship at Orange, Polk, and Hillsborough County Commission meetings, that is the reason why there was the intervention that led up to Patricia Jeanette Faust's U.S. Government Media Complex murder for hire. I expect, my home phone is 863-297-3363. I expect the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Chip Fletcher, the county attorney, to please contact me and take my statement officially. And also, America's in the midst of the biggest constitutional crises in her history. And so therefore, I'm going to run for president in 2020 as a constitutionalist who is a custodian to uphold the U.S. Constitution. And the first thing on the people's agenda is we'll need to bring back the James Monroe Doctrine, which is America's sovereignty doctrine, and stipulate it to the enemy within as well, because America's representative constitutional republic is truly at stake. Right, the President of the United States, which is Donald Trump today, what he should be doing is submitting constitutional mandates which saves the republic to both houses of representatives.
Thank you very much. Okay, and that does conclude our public comment. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second. Motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner White. Commissioner Chris, did you want to make a comment before we approve?
Yes, just brief
Okay.
comment to those that are here from Hope. There is still hope, and we are still working on the budgetary process. And, you know, continue to pray and continue to do your good work, and I believe that we're going to get very close to the mark.
Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion on consent? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
We're ready to go
Sure.
to the agenda.
We have a few minutes before the first time certain public hearings, so we'll take some of the regular items, beginning with affordable housing.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Cheryl.
My name is Cheryl Howell, Affordable Housing Director. Good to be here. I'm requesting approval for a budget amendment to appropriate the FY 18-19 State Housing Initiative Program grant revenue and expenditures by $1,344,889 in order to bring the budget in line with the actual revenue received and the estimated program income of $500,000.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Higginbotham, seconded by Commissioner Hagan to approve item B1. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody here from Development Services?
Not yet.
No? Okay. Healthcare Services? No. All right. Why don't we take a couple of procurement items? John?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners, County Administrator. John Hollingshead, Procurement Services Department. Item B5 is asking you to award a 2-year contract to lowest responsive and responsible bidder. It's Biosolids Distribution Services, LLC, in the amount of $7,130,490 for the ongoing as-needed transportation and disposal of biosolids for the operations of the wastewater treatment facilities. There were no certified disadvantaged vendor or small vendor firms for the specified services or goods, so there was no goal associated with it, and bids were received from 4 different vendors.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Who made the motion? Oh, Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm glad we're moving ahead on this. I'd just like to, I know this is only a 2-year contract, and that we're looking at beneficially processing our biosolids within the next 2 years with the plant. But I hope that if we come back with a contract in these terms again, that it's not the lowest bidder, but the bidder that does the most beneficial, the lowest bidder and the bidder that does the most beneficial use of our biosolids.
Yes, ma'am, we'll certainly try.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. So we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham to approve item B5. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Agenda
Next
item B6 is recommending the award distribution detailed in the attached notice of intent to award for transportation impact fee solicitation number 4, which will result in the purchase or buyback of transportation offsets in the amount of $6,769,628.29, or approximately 76 cents per $100 of face value of the transportation impact offsets, and funding for this buyback is included in the FY18 budget, and recommend approval.
Great, thank you for your presentation. Motion by Commissioner Higgins, second by Commissioner Higginbotham. I just want to say, I think we're making really great progress on these buybacks, and I don't know what we're down to. Can you give us an amount? Do you have an idea?
Not offhand, no.
But I see we're approving items at least monthly, so it's very good.
I think we've had 3 auctions, is that right? 4 auctions?
Yeah, that's excellent.
So we should be, I would think, getting close to 30 million at this point.
30 million?
Yeah.
Adam?
30. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we purchased about 30 million, which equates to a value of about 40 million in actual offsets that we're taking off of the books. So we are making really good progress just in the last couple of years.
That's excellent, because I know what we had on the books, what was it, 90?
We had about 100.
100?
So altogether, we're probably taking care of about 60 million of the 100, so.
Great progress.
Yeah.
Really good. Good work. Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Higgins, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham to approve item B6. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Agenda item B7 is asking you to award and execute an agreement with the lowest responsible bidder, which is Dallas One Corporation, in the amount of $2,291,899.70 for the drainage improvements along Lambright Street, which is in the Pinecrest West Park area of the Town and Country area, for the Public Works Department. The award includes a $250 allowance for permits and $200,000 for additional general site work because the conditions are unknown. It's going to take about 240 days to complete the project, and it has a disadvantaged vendor participation goal of 11%, and Dallas One is achieving a higher goal of 11.7. We got bids from 6 people. 6 different.
Thank you very much. Much needed project for my district, so
You're welcome.
thank you. Motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Hagan to approve item B7. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
I'm sorry. Agenda item B8 is asking you to approve and execute the third amendment with the enterprise license agreement with Environmental Systems Research Institute, or ESRI as you might know it, for the GIS information platform that the Public Works Department uses. This modification will increase the contract by $1,950,000, retroactively extend the term to July 14th, 2021, and delete and replace several amendments and appendices within the ongoing agreement. There were, due to the proprietary nature and proprietary nature of the services that we're buying. There was no vendors that we could subcontract to, so there was no goal associated with this procurement, and we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. We have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner Hagan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote on item B8.
Motion carried 6-0.
Agenda item B9 is asking you to award and execute the agreement with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Coning Graham, Inc., in the amount of $1,743,180.60 for the replacement of bridge number 104428 on East Keysville Road in the Lithia area for the Public Works Department. There's a permit allowance of $200,000. There's another allowance for $154,718.40 for additional site work due to site conditions not known at this time. There was a goal established for disadvantaged vendors of 7%, and the recommended vendor wants to achieve the goal at 11%. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Kemp to approve item B9. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. Item B9.
Motion carried 7-0.
Agenda item B10, two parts to it. There's asking to award and execute an agreement with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Douglas and Higgins, Inc., in the amount of $3,197,075 for drain improvements at the lower Sweetwater Creek and Upper Town and Country area for the Public Works Department. There's an associated allowance of $200,500 for permitting and other site conditions not known at this time. There was a 10% disadvantaged vendor participation goal, and the recommended vendor is recommending a slightly higher goal of 10.6% with their bid. The second part is asking you to approve a budget amendment to appropriate $600,000 from the Stormwater Management Fund Services and realign $700,000 from the Stormwater Pump Station Renewal and Replacement Master Project.
Thank you very much again, and thank you to staff for making these drainage improvements in town and country. They are so needed. Thank you, all of you out there. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Hagan to approve item B10. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Item B11 is asking you to award a 4-year contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which is Curry Controls Company, in the amount of $7,059,579.07 for ongoing and as-needed purchase of pump station electrical panels and related items that are used to upgrade the wastewater pump stations throughout the county for the Public Utilities Department. Due to the components within to make up this contract, there were no certified disadvantaged firms or any small business firms that supplied the types of pumps or components. So there's no goal associated with this project, and we've received great competition from 8 different bidders. So we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you very much. We're on item B11. Okay, motion by Commissioner Hagan, second by Commissioner Kemp to approve item B11. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
And the last.
Motion carried 7-0.
Sorry. Item B12 has 3 parts to it. The first one is award and execute a 3-year contract, sole source contract with Frontier Services Agreement with Frontier Communications Corporation for fiber internet and Centranet, which is analog telephone services, in the amount of $4,104,596.40 for the Information and Innovation Office. The second part of it is award and execute a 3-year sole source Frontier Services Agreement for 311 N11 Advanced Intelligent Network Services in the amount of $2,160. And this service is a placeholder for future consolidation for services for non-emergency government entities. The amount is within a lower approval level, but this is associated with this Frontier agreement, so the board chair has to execute the agreement. And due to the multiple locations that these services are providing throughout the county. We're asking for, or recommending that the Director of Procurement Services can increase the blanket purchase agreement based on previously approved budgets to support the different facilities, adding and deleting the locations and services. So due to the proprietary nature of Frontier Communication Services, there is no goal associated with this project for disadvantaged firms, and procurement recommends approval.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Commissioner Higginbotham, second by Commissioner Hagan to approve item B12. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are at 10 a.m. and I think we'll go back to the scheduled time certains with our first public hearing, D1.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Paul Johnston, County Attorney's Office. We're here today, Commissioners, to look at amending the rave dance hall ordinance to include authority to regulate and permit single night and limited duration events, and also place certain responsibilities on the property owners for these events. The ordinance has been listed with the clerk's office for public review and has been properly advertised.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hagan, you want to speak now or after the public hearing?
After.
Okay. So we'll start the public hearing?
Yes.
Commence the public hearing. We will now open it. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item D1? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item D1? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, if you recall, back in January, a 15-year-old girl was shot and killed during a teen party at a storage facility. This particular teen party is part of a growing trend of spur-of-the-moment events that quickly get started on social media and typically last a single night. As a father of a 16-year-old, this issue not only concerns me, but it scares the hell out of me. That's why I brought this issue to the board's attention. These events are often held in inappropriate locations and have been largely unregulated until today. The ordinance revisions that I hope we adopt will achieve three main things. It will empower code enforcement to regulate and police single-night events. It will require permits for such events, and the ordinance will hold property owners accountable who are often ignorant of what is taking place on their property after they rent out the space. I want to thank staff for all of the hard work put into this issue. This action will protect the public, particularly our youth. So I'm happy to move staff recommendations, which amends the rave dance hall ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Higgins, second by Commissioner Miller to approve item D1. Is there any further discussion? Thank you, Commissioner Hagan, for doing this item. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Murman.
I did.
Motion carried 7-0.
And that takes us to your second public hearing, D2.
Good morning.
Good morning. John Lyons, Public Works Department. Commissioners, we're asking you to conduct a public hearing and adopt the resolution which establishes the solid waste non-ad valorem disposal and collection assessment rate and other user fees and charges for the solid waste disposal and collection rolls. Monies collected from the assessment fees and charges are used for the cost of providing disposal and collection services within the county's solid waste service area. The recommended FY19 budget for Solid Waste Enterprise Fund reflects no change in the total single residential assessment per residential unit. The rate schedule for 2019 combined with other revenues such as electricity sales and tipping fees will be sufficient to pay all expected expenditures to support the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. This is a public hearing.
Yes, it is. Okay, we're on item D2 and we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item D2? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item D2? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Hang on one second.
We have one?
Is she okay? Okay, all right.
They're
we're good.
okay?
Yep. She just
Okay.
had a question on the bill itself, the actual notice, and so we're helping her over here.
Okay, very good. And I know in my office, we have very robust discussion about this. Y'all, we cannot just inch our way out of the deficit we have in this area. And I know that you're going to bring a big report back to us in January or February. But we have to be a little more aggressive with rates. We're the lowest rate in, I think, an 8-county area. We've just, we've got to do more to help resolve some of these issues in solid waste. So I just wanted to make those comments. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
I'd just like to concur that we very much need to do this.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a deficit. I think it's like 100 million or 200 million.
No,
Or backlog.
it's stormwater.
Stormwater.
Yeah, so I was listening and getting
Okay.
confused. No, this is on solid waste.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be bringing you stormwater.
The stormwater is
in the
coming
next
back.
meeting. Yeah, no,
Okay.
solid waste system is in good financial shape.
Good shape. It's the stormwater.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Just so everyone
I am
knows, our solid
confused.
waste system's in good shape.
Okay, good.
We've kept rates low. May have to increase in the future, but
Yes.
we're good now, so.
Okay, good. Okay, so board action, item D2. Motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Chris. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
We have, you can waive, I think Martine's, yeah, she's here. You can waive the rules, and we'll take your 10-15 times certain F1.
Okay, motion by Commissioner White to waive the rules, seconded by Commissioner Kemp. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Higginbotham, Commissioner Murman.
Chris, did.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, is Martine?
Yep, come on up.
Please come forward.
I can speak before she speaks.
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Chris, you're recognized before the item is presented.
Martine, if you come up to the podium, I want to speak first, introducing you and some of the significant and necessary changes that have taken place under your great leadership. First, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to serve on the Arts Council as the board's appointee. I serve proudly on this board. When I first came to the agency, it was a great agency with a great mission, doing great work. But it was very clear that it was time to move it forward and that there was so much more that could be done with this agency to improve the culture of arts and arts programming in our communities and to include arts-based programming as part of our economic development engine in Hillsborough County. That as we move forward in trying to attract new businesses and to improve quality of life, the arts deserve and need to be a valued player at the seat of the table. And at this point, I'm proud to say that that has happened. It wasn't that way before, but thanks to your stewardship and our good board, and Lindsay Kimball, where are you, Lindsay? Just stand up. You are a wonderful, wonderful person and a great advocate on this board. You and I can't talk about this because we're both board members, but this is my opportunity to recognize the good work that you've done. You and I both served on the search committee, and we went to bat fighting for what we believed was the right thing to do to move this agency forward. And now we're beginning to see the fruits of our labor. There has been a lot of new grant programs have expanded for cultural development grants, professional development grants, arts grants, community arts improvement grants, and the list goes on. A new program is being developed to stimulate arts and culture opportunities for the rural and unincorporated parts of Hillsborough County, which had never been done before. It had been primarily concentrated in the urban corridor. We're not losing sight of the urban corridor. We are enhancing and adding to it. Last August, we distributed the Applied Creative tabloid, which is a within the Tampa Bay Times, which has resulted in significant increases for the schools and out-of-school program participation. We are now getting far more kids and young people and families involved in the arts. Whether they have talent or not, they're beginning to see the enjoyment and the enhancement to life. And we are finding those prodigies out there that we're so lucky to have in this market. There are a lot of businesses that depend on creative talents as part of their workforce and their work pool. I run one as an owner of an advertising agency. And having that resource as a viable workforce makes Tampa a significant destination location for new business growth and development. And Martine, tell us a little bit in your presentation about some of the things that you are doing to help advance us with our economic development opportunities, as well as the great things that are going on with the Arts Council. And we have so much to be thankful for today, and you are part of that.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner, but I'm here today not about me and not about the Arts Council, but about all of you and what you have done to make the things that we are doing possible. First of all, I'm going to just read from the press release that went out from Washington, D.C. on Monday, July 16th. Americans for the Arts and the National Association of Counties yesterday awarded Hillsborough Board of County Commissioners of Tampa, Florida, the Public Leadership in the Arts Award for County Arts Leadership at NACO's annual conference in Nashville, Tennessee. The award honors an elected county board or individual leader who has significantly advanced the arts in the communities that they serve. In a year, and they said this at the presentation because I was there, in a year when state elected officials cut funding, these commissioners in March voted unanimously to establish a Cultural Assets Commission to provide funding for new large-scale festivals and activities within the county, sending a message to local organizations losing state funding that in Hillsborough County, the contributions of artists and cultural organizations are valued. Since 2006, the commissioners have not only sustained existing funding for arts and culture, but have also launched significant efforts to increase funding over the past decade, providing $234 million, a particular challenge during and after the financial crisis, when a number of public funders across the United States cut their funding for arts and culture. This funding increase includes more than $1 million annually to the Arts Council to re-grant funds to individual artists and cultural organizations, provide artists in the county schools, and support the entire cultural ecosystem by providing technical assistance, promotion, and advocacy. And my favorite part of the press release. The commissioners have also provided innovative leadership in developing programs to strengthen cultural assets for the community and to ensure cultural equity in the distribution of their funding. Individual commissioners, as well as the commission collectively, have been actively and personally involved in community arts initiatives during the past decade, with a special focus on spreading community cultural education opportunities outside the Tampa city limits and into underserved populations. So I want to say what Robert Lynch, the president and CEO of Americans, said about this. Hillsborough County is very fortunate to have 7 county commissioners who have consistently shown through their actions that they understand both individually and collectively the importance of arts and culture to their community. I applaud them for their commitment and their leadership, which is very much worthy of this recognition. So before I give you the award, I want to look around the room. Okay, the Arts Council board members that are here, Pat Mitchell and Michelle Turman, as well as Lindsay. And I want to see if any of the other people, but this was very much a group effort, this nomination. Special kudos to board members of the Arts Council, Paul Berg of the Carrollwood Cultural Center and Georgia Vahue of the Firehouse Cultural Center. They both provided very compelling statistics on the reach
of their organizations to a very diverse group of Hillsborough County citizens, which I think contributed to the you all getting the award. I also want to recognize Judy Lisi of the Straz Performing Arts Center and Santiago Corrado, who provided impressive letters of support. So this nomination was definitely a group effort. But now, without further ado, the award itself. And this award has been produced by the same glass artisans since this program was started 18 years ago. And all leaders in the arts who are given awards through Americans for the Arts have awards done by this artist. So President Clinton has one, Nancy Pelosi has one, all leaders on both sides of the aisles. I love it at the convention where they gave this award. They said, you can't have bipartisan without art, because it's right in the middle of it. So this award has been given to a lot of leaders whose names you would know the artist has done, but each one is completely different and meant to represent the community or the individual receiving the award. So it says, Americans for the Arts and the National Association of Counties, 2018 National Award for County Arts Leadership, Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. And now it fits. Okay, Robert Lynch suggested that you all needed a round of applause. Could we manage to do that in this room? Because anyone who appreciates arts and culture very much appreciates what you have done. And I just wanted to tell you a little secret, since I was in Nashville and to get the award, and made it back with 2 airplane flights, which was really scary, carrying a piece of glass this beautiful. But what I was talking to them about there was how we get the Americans for the Arts convention to Tampa, Hillsborough County, and they've given me some steps, and I'm going to talk to Lindsay in economic development, but they don't have a host for 2021, and we're going to start working on that, and we'll be in great position because they already know that our county commissioners care. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so hold on. The founder of the Cultural Arts Commission would like to make some remarks. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Martine, it's great to see you. Thank you for the kind words. And as Commissioner Murman said, as the commissioner who championed the Cultural Assets Commission, thank you for all the work you put into that. I want to thank all of your board members and everyone that worked hard on the nomination process. It's really great to hear the great words from NACO, and we're big supporters of your organization and of you, and just keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Great.
You too.
Great.
We
Okay,
appreciate
so I think let's take a picture. What you present to Lindsay and stand in front of the dais, and then we'll be behind you.
Okay.
Okay. Is that okay? That's okay. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's great.
Who was the artist?
Yes. Yeah. The 2 other.
It's not Jehu.
No, you present. You and Lindsay hold it, and the other board members come up.
There's a woman here in Tampa that's well-known glass.
Okay, need to shift. Yeah, got another balance out here. Good.
Thank you also.
Thank you.
I'm wrapping this back up in bubble wrap and giving this to you.
Well, I think we'll put it in the case by the elevators, so so we can have it properly recognized when people go by it. Okay, Mr. Merrill, you want?
Yes, that.
You want to waive the rules and do F2?
F2, yes.
I think they're all here.
Move to waive the rules.
Motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Kemp to waive the rules. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
I thought she was going to recognize. She's drinking a coffee.
Oh.
This is
Waiting on you.
Commissioner
Oh,
Miller's
I'm
item.
sorry. I thought we... I'm sorry, just completely escaped my mind. Okay, so we're going to do the PACE program, and Commissioner Miller, you're recognized. I thought they were going to come up.
No.
Okay.
We have a different.
I
plan.
gotcha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At our last county commission meeting, we had a major discussion in depth concerning PACE program and the unfortunate company that was fraudulently utilizing Hillsborough County's name and going forth to some of the most needy people in this community, telling them that they needed a roof replaced and handing them pieces of paper with Hillsborough County's name on it, not the seal, Hillsborough County's name on it. And of course, those folks that saw that immediately decided that they didn't want to have the fear of having their homes taken away from them, so they did such things. And we come to find out that that particular company also had some people working for it that probably should not have been working for it. So at that particular point in time, the board decided to pass a motion to have the companies with PACE, those 4 companies, to come back and make a presentation concerning their policy, procedures, and guidelines of hiring contractors to do work for them. But in discussion with our staff, we decided that having 4 companies come forth and make that presentation, we'll be here until tomorrow night sometime doing that. So at that point, we decided to have staff do some work in working with those companies to bring that information forth. So I'm going to ask Mr. Merrill to go into a little bit more detail about it, and I think at that point we're going to probably have Brandon Wagner come forth and say what he has to say. So, Mr. Merrill, turn it over to you.
Okay.
Sure. So just to refresh everyone's memories, there are 4 PACE contractors that the county entered into agreements with. There was only one of those 4 here at the last meeting, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows there are 4. And we thought that a more efficient way to approach this would be for Brandon and our consumer protection staff to meet with all 4 of those contractors, review the policies, procedures, oversight that those companies currently have in place to ensure that our residents are have the protections they need in hiring contractors. And then if we find any of those 4 contractors are deficient in their oversight procedures and policies, we will recommend to them how to improve in that area, and hopefully they will accept our recommendations. But if we feel that any one of the 4 are really not providing the kind of oversight and protection that we think is necessary, then they will be back in front of you explaining to you why they don't think it's important to protect our residents. So I think that is the process we're proposing. Brandon will lead that, and hopefully you will never see us again on this issue, and we'll issue you a report or a memo at some point in advising you how that turned out. So that's our plan.
Okay. Mr. White, do you have anything to bring forth? Okay. So having worked with staff and to come up with this solution, I think that they will be ever mindful that they have to bring that information to our staff. And as Mr. Merrill said, if any of those companies decide that they want to do unscrupulous type work in this county, we're going to make sure that they don't do that work in this county and make sure that they never come back to this county again. So, Madam Chair, what I'm going to do is make a motion to receive the report from our staff and let them go forth with what they have to do to work with these companies to make sure all their policy procedures and guidelines are in place, that we have good companies doing great work in this county. That's my motion.
Second. Okay, so we do have a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Kemp and White. I will tell you, I have been in discussions with Mike Fasano, former senator that you served with. He's tax collector in Pasco, and they have developed a consumer customer disclosure form. And I've given a copy to Mr. Merrill so he can give it to staff. But I do think I'll give you a copy of it. It's very comprehensive. It spells out what PACE does, and the consumer, everyone has to sign it, so that there's upfront acknowledgement. And if people don't abide by the rules, they won't be able to offer services in that county any longer. So I think that they've really attacked the issue, and we might take some things of what they've done, or we may not, but I think it's at least some information we can work with going forward. Okay, great. We have a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Kemp, to receive the report on item F2. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Very
All right.
good.
We have some time before your 10:45 time certain, so we'll go back to the regular agenda with Development Services, B2 and B3.
Good morning, Commissioners. Adam Gormley with Development Services. Item B2 is a request from the Hillsborough County School District for a disbursement of $71,953,351 of school impact fee funds to fund the construction of high school T in the South County area.
Yesterday.
The item will also true up the starting fund balance for the impact fee fund collections for FY18. Available for any questions.
Okay. We're on item B2. We have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner Miller to approve item B2. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Commissioner Christ? Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you. Item
Thank you.
Item B3 is a request for budget amendment within the Building Services Fund, an amount of $1.7 million. This will go to fund our continuing funding of contract services to help meet the level of service demand that we're experiencing in the industry right now. This is a supported change, and it has helped us continue operations to use this service.
And we have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner White and Higginbotham. And I know you've had a lot of increase in business upstairs,
Yes,
so
yes.
it's a good thing for Hillsborough County, but I know you've got to staff up also.
Yes,
So.
and Commissioner, that with that increase in business comes increase in revenue, and that helps us provide this service.
Absolutely. So is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote on item B3.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Healthcare Services, B4.
Good morning, I'm Gene Early. I'm with the Department Director of Healthcare Services. B4 is a first modifications to the agreements with our skilled nursing facilities at 1465 Oakfield Drive Operations, LLC, 518 West Fletcher Avenue Operations, LLC, and 2916 Urbana Way Operations, LLC. It extends each agreement for a 2-year period commencing March 1st, 2019, and may be unilaterally renewed by the county through its Director of Healthcare Services Department for 3 successive 1-year periods thereafter at the same terms and conditions, and replace the access to records clause per statute to each agreement, and to increase by 3% the reimbursement rate of each level of care effective March 1st, 2019, and on the annual anniversaries dates of each thereafter. There's no financial impact. It comes out of the Indigent Healthcare Fund, and no additional county funds are required. Request approval.
Thank you very much. We have item B4, motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner White to approve item B4. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just would like to recognize you, Mr. Early. I've heard comments in the community that have praised you so much for the work that you've done, so I'd like to thank you for that work, and just let you know that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. He does a great job. Okay, so item B4, we have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Commissioners, I think everyone's here for the 10:45 time certain. Is that right?
Okay, motion by Commissioner Miller to waive the rules, seconded by Commissioner White. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
This is item B18.
B18. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning,
Great to
Madam
see you.
Chairman. Nice to see you, everybody. Members of the Board of County Commissioners and Mr. Merrill and staff and my staff. This is always a pleasure to give you this report, and this is the one for 2017, and this is my role as County Comptroller and Chief Financial Officer. It's the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is known as CAFR, and prepared by my office in accordance with Sections 218.32 and 218.39 Florida statutes. And the CAFR covers not only the financial information of the Board of County Commissioners, but also the financial information of the 5 constitutional officers and 2 discretely presented component units. These separate governments collectively represent the county, Hillsborough County, Florida reporting entity. As you can see, the county's CAFR received, let's see, wait, we got here. County's CAFR received an unmodified audit opinion from Terry Beckert, who's the county's independent certified public accountants. This is the best type of auditor opinion. On this slide, for fiscal year 2017, the county's financial reports, audit reports, and federal and state grant expenditure-related information were provided as required to the Chief Financial Officer for Florida, the Florida Auditor General, the federal government, the EMA, the website for disclosures related to municipal securities issued in the United States. You can tell that we get a lot of audits and we do a lot of work. On this slide, this year's CAFR highlights Hillsborough County's Emergency Management Department. The cover and 3 divider pages in this document have photos and information related to emergency management. The CAFR and other reports are posted on the Clerk's website in hillsclerk.com. To see these reports, just enter County Financial Reports in the search box at the upper right of the home page. All this information is available to the public. And as you can see from these 2 pictures, we have a simplified financial summary report is also prepared as an easy-to-read document designed for the general public. It's only 6 pages long compared to the CAFR, which is 252 pages long. So you know a lot of work goes into this. Both the CAFR and the Financial Report Summary have received awards from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, known as GFOA. The GFOA has awarded Hillsborough County's CAFR's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for 35 consecutive years, long before I got here. The GFOA has also awarded the county's Financial Summary Report an award for outstanding achievement in popular annual financing reporting for 17 consecutive years. So we've got a good record of being recognized as doing a good job in reporting. I'd like to briefly mention my 3 responsibilities as Hillsborough County's Chief Financial Officer. These responsibilities include Comptroller, which covers accounting functions, County Treasurer, which covers holding and investing county funds, and County Auditor, which covers a variety of auditing functions. These responsibilities are assigned to the Clerk of Circuit Court by the Florida Constitution and various Florida statutes. The Florida Constitution states, and I quote, "Clerk of Circuit Court shall be the ex officio clerk to the Board of County Commissioners, auditor, recorder, and custodian of all county funds." And in addition to that, we've got about 1,000 references in the statutes for our duties. My office has accounting and auditing responsibilities within the board's financial system. This slide shows that my office ensures that the general ledger in the Oracle ERP system is properly maintained and that there are internal controls in place. These internal controls are essential for safeguarding public funds and other assets, ensuring proper accounting of transactions and preparing county financial reports. I ensure that the transactions submitted are properly accounted for and that expenditure requests and other transactions are in compliance with laws, statutes, BOCC ordinances and policies, as well as governmental accounting standards. Meeting these accounting and auditing responsibilities is a necessary prerequisite for a successful independent audit. As Comptroller, I have a set of auditing functions to perform. These functions include performing a budget audit of the county administrator's recommended budget to ensure compliance with laws, statutes, BOCC ordinances and policies, as well as governmental accounting standards. The budget is also an integral part of the accounting system since it controls costs at the fund, department, and other levels. In addition, my county finance department audits payment requests and other transactions to ensure that public funds are spent in compliance with requirements. There's also a separate internal audit department directly under my oversight to audit functions of both the BOCC and Clerk Comptroller as specified by Florida law. I'd like to take this opportunity to make a brief statement in regard to Oracle. As you all are probably aware, there have been some challenges and disagreements regarding internal controls in Oracle. In Oracle, county administration conducts and facilitates financial transactions pursuant to your direction, policies, and statutes on your behalf. As Comptroller, my office ensures that the proper accounting results from these financial transactions and that the internal conditions are in place to safeguard county assets and ensure proper financial reporting. Furthermore, pursuant to statute, I have personal liability regarding improper payments. Personal liability. So it is paramount that my office makes sure that the proper safeguards are in place in Oracle. We all have jobs to do in Oracle. Moreover, we must work together so that Oracle is used to its fullest potential while still making sure that the county's assets are safe. It's not my job to do policy. That's your job. It's my job to make sure that the laws are complied with. With that, I'll answer any questions from the board. And if no questions, I'll turn over to the next portion of this presentation to your external auditors, Cherry Beckert. Audit partner John Gilberto will give a brief presentation of the fiscal year 2017 audit results. John, would you like to come up?
Thank you, Pat. I don't see any questions at this time.
None?
So we can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Good morning. As Clerk Frank said, I am John Gilberto. I'm the audit partner with Cherry Beckert, and we have completed the audit, and we're going to go over a very quick presentation on the results of what happened during the audit process, as soon as they get the presentation up on the screen for you to see. But as they're getting that up, we want to thank the finance departments and everybody out throughout the county that helped us get this audit completed during the year. It was completed more timely than it has been in the last 5 years. We have issued the report in March this year instead of the April through July that is done in the last couple of years due to several factors, including Oracle and the state retirement system. As the clerk said, we did receive, or the county did receive, their Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting this year. So with that, I'll hop right into our presentation. As I said, we have completed the audit and have issued our report on the financial statements dated March 26, 2018. This financial statements, this CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, is yours. It is not ours. It is not management's. As those charged with governance, this is your document and your responsibility. We audit that document for you, the numbers in that document for you. In that document, there are other entities. The Housing Finance Authority is a separate legal entity, but is shown as a component unit in your financial statements, and we do not audit that. That is audited by other auditors, and their opinion relates to that audit of that financial statements. As I said, within your financial statements, there are other entities. They're all separate legal entities, but due to accounting standards, there are things that have to be recorded and shown as part of the accounting reporting package. There is the Civil Service Board, which is a blended component unit shown as a special revenue fund within your financial statements. And then there are two discretely presented component units. That's the Sitting Planning, and then, as I said before, the Housing Finance Authority that are also shown in your financial statements. Our responsibilities are multiple fold. We follow all the different standards that are required through the auditing standards, the government auditing standards, the statutes in the state of Florida, and there's many statutes that we have to follow and look at and and test for compliance. We also look at the federal grants under the UGG Uniform Grant Guidance and under the state requirements for single audit for the expenditures of their dollars too. As we looked at these things, we're required to look at internal controls over financial reporting and internal controls over compliance with different expenditures related to your major federal and state programs. As it relates to internal controls, we did have 5 material weaknesses and 2 significant deficiencies that we did notice in internal controls that are detailed in the schedule of findings and question cost and are followed by management's corrective action plans on how they're going to make sure those controls are strengthened and fixed down the road so those don't happen again. Nothing changed in the scope of our audit as we went through the plan. Our planning at the beginning did include an adjustment that we were told about that was due to the prior year, to an oracle error that was noted in the prior year that was fixed in the current year. So we did adjust our plan at the beginning of the audit plan for that. But as the process went through, our plan did not change. It went straight forward through the documents. Your accounting principles document your measurement and your recognition of assets, liabilities, inflows, and outflows, and those are all in footnote 1 to your financial statements. You had 2 new changes in your accounting pronouncements this year that are new and included in your financial statements. The first one was the adoption of GASB 75, and that is the OPEB, the other post-employment benefit plan liability. That recorded about a $72 million liability on the face of your statements, which to reduce the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year. And then that will be recorded as a liability with the changes going forward through the actual presentations and calculations as we go forward through the rest of the years. And the next one was tax abatements. It's additional disclosures in your footnote, footnote 1W and footnote 18, that goes into certain tax abatements that are out there, the benefits and the effects of those abatements to you as the county. As it relates to the single audit, we selected 9 major programs to test this year to get to the coverage as a high-risk auditee. We tested over 40% of your total federal and state dollars. The 9 programs are selected are here. They're detailed in the schedule of findings and question cost in the financial statements, and there were no internal control or compliance issues identified with the single audit this year, which is a really good thing. That is my quick presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have or any further that you would like to go into the CAFR. I would be happy to go through that with you also.
Okay, I do not see any questions from other commissioners at this time, but thank you very much for your thorough presentation.
I'd like to thank John for his presentation, and I also want to express my appreciation for everybody who supported getting together the county audit, including the Board of County Commissioners, all constitutional officers, as well as your respective staffs. It doesn't happen unless everybody works together, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of hours, a lot of man and woman hours. And I especially want to thank the staff of the Clerk's County Finance Department, which prepared the CAFR and other reports and performed auditing and accounting functions on my behalf. First, I'd like to thank the Chief Deputy Clerk, who's in charge of finance, Tim Simon, and Ajay Gajar, who is the Director of Finance. Where's Ajay? Ajay, and is anybody in your staff here? Would they please rise? Thank you so much. I mean, these people do an overwhelming job, and they're just small in number, and I'm telling you, they do a wonderful job every year. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you.
And I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
I do not see any questions at this time, so it means you made a great presentation.
Well, all the information is there for you, and if you have any questions following this presentation, be sure to call us.
We will, absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, if the board wants to waive the rules, we can go to your 11 a.m. time certains, B19 and B20.
Okay, motion to waive the rules. Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote. This is to waive the rules to take up both audits.
Motion carried 6-0.
B19 and B20. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Heidi Penner, Director of County Audit. The first item, B19, is audit report number 341. This was an audit of the Indigent Healthcare Surtax Trust Fund. This audit is required by state statute. We perform it on a recurring basis biannually. This one in particular covered fiscal year 2016 and 2017 trust fund dollars. And the purpose of this audit is to ensure that there's a system of controls in place over the trust fund dollars, which includes the receipt, the statutory compliance, and also the appropriateness of expenditures. We had no exceptions noted and no material concerns identified in the audit. We did have one observation regarding the supporting documentation maintained. We communicated that to Healthcare Services, and they took immediate corrective action, so that item's closed out. The results of this audit were also forwarded to the members of the Hillsborough County Legislative Delegation, as required by statute, and I'm available for any questions or ask that you receive the audit.
Don't see any questions at this time. Motion to receive the audit report by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Kemp. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
And
Okay.
B20.
And item B20 is audit report number 350. This was an audit of the mobility fees program. As you are aware, this program went in effect in January of 2017, replaced the transportation impact fees. Our objective here was to ensure that there were appropriate controls over the assessment and collection with the new mobility fees program. Our scope included the first 9 months of the program period, so from January 2017 to September 30, 2017. We did note some exceptions when testing. They were not material in nature, so we communicated those to management for correction. We did have one recommendation concerning the segregation of duties within the new process, and we also communicated that to management, that we felt improvement in that area could increase oversight and also just business continuity within the process. Management concurred with each of the recommendations and has developed corrective action plans that we think will address the concerns. I'm available for questions on this one as well, and ask that you receive the report into the record.
Okay, thank you very much. Do not see any questions. Motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner Miller to receive the report on item B20. Please record your vote.
Thank you.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heidi. That concludes your time certains. We can go back to the regular agenda with Public Works, B13 through B17.
Good morning, John Lyons, Public Works Department. Item B13 is a request for a budget amendment to accept and appropriate $16 million of the Lake Hutto developer agreement to the Bell Shoals Widening Capital Project. This will complete the funding of the project to begin the construction process. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, wait, Commissioner White, you recognize?
I'll move the item.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Kemp to approve item B13, much needed. Can't wait for the improvements. Is there any further discussion?
Wait, I'm sorry, I wanted to speak after, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I should have just taken the
yeah,
floor
'cause I
and made
asked
the
you,
motion.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Okay, so this is the full and complete appropriation from the developer that was promised many,
Yes.
many moons ago.
Back in April,
Right.
when we brought, I think it was April, we
Right.
brought the agreement, modified agreement back.
Great. And again, no one's getting off the hook, anything like that?
No, sir.
It's fully developer funded
No,
as,
sir.
as promised. Is all the land acquisition complete?
I believe the land acquisition is complete, maybe but for a parcel or two, and I'll have to get back with you on it'd be on the north end.
Okay.
However, the good news is we're intending on starting limited clearing and grubbing on the south half of the project probably in August to be able to get utilities in there to start their relocations. Next month, we should also be able to put the bid on the street for the construction contract and award that contract hopefully by January.
Great. So you've sort of answered my second question. So we'll see some sort of activity, boots on the ground, if you will, in August.
Yes,
in
sir.
January, we expect it to really be in full swing.
There's a lot of utility location, TICO and underground utilities that kind of need to get out of the way before we can do that. But yes, sir, we'll be starting on the south end. Hopefully full swing after the contract gets awarded. It usually takes about another 45 days to get mobilized after that.
Fantastic. That's great news. Thanks, John.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Kemp to approve item B13. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Item B14 is a change order number 2 to the construction contract with AJAX Paving Industries, LLC, Pavement Treatment Program contract for CIP 69631. And what this is adding $2 million to the existing contract to finish up the FY18 resurfacing program. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Hagan and White to approve item B14. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Item B15 is a change order on a pavement treatment program as well with Hubbard Construction Company. And this is in the amount of $3 million, and it's also to finish up the FY18 resurfacing work plan.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner White to approve item B15. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Item B16 is a budget amendment resolution to appropriate by a supermajority vote in accordance with BOCC Policy 03020500 from reserves for contingency for the countywide general fund, $475,000 to the Public Works operating budget for additional mosquito surveillance and spray missions in response to increase in mosquito activity.
Yes, they're there. Mosquitoes are everywhere.
Yes.
Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner White to approve much-needed item B16. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Item B17 is a budget amendment request for the Solid Waste Division operating budget to appropriate $4.5 million for increased collection and disposal cost and appropriate $2.1 million to the landfill closure. And essentially these are, we've had an increased customer base, or obviously our expenses come up, but the revenues kind of lag behind because it is an assessment on the tax bill. And because of the increased activity, we have to increase $2.1 million into the landfill closure fund.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Miller, motion to approve item B17, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote on item B17.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Motion carried 7-0.
And I will come to the podium to do C1, which is the recommended budget, if someone could get the slides up for me.
I've got another version. Can I pull this out? Oops, didn't want to do that.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is the my presentation of the recommended budget for fiscal year 19. Charlene's handing out copies of the slides. The budget itself was published on June 26 for the public to be able to review, and we provided copies to you at that time. So just sort of a high-level summary, the budget for FY19, the recommended budget, is balanced, and it is balanced with no increase in property tax millage and no increase in any other fees. Reserves in the combined general funds do meet the board's policy of 20%, and the cost of government services per capita is 7% less in the FY19 budget than in fiscal year 2010. We have eliminated 463 positions since 2010, but have added 198 public safety positions since that time. There's been no reduction in any services to our residents, nor are there any service reductions planned for next year. Our counties and regions' economic performance, as you know, has been very strong. The growth in taxable values have been the highest since 2008. Countywide general fund growth is 10.2%, and the unincorporated general fund is 9.8%. Been a 7.6% growth in home sales and home prices in the last year, and the unemployment rate fell to 3.8% in our county, which is the lowest since 2006, representing a 34,200 job gain since last year. So I will go through the slides in a fairly summary fashion. I have staff here, Tom Fessler, Bonnie Wise, and can answer any questions that you have. So the total budget for FY19 is $5.471 billion, but I'd like to focus on the cash budget because, as you know, we've presented this the same way for a number of years. Transfers are non-cash items, so those are just accounting transactions. Reserves are, for the most part, restricted. So we're just focused on the $3.2 billion cash budget, which is made up of those operating costs that are shown, representing just over $2 billion, capital costs of almost $1,982 million, and our outstanding debt obligations of $142 million. So focusing on the 3.2, this breaks down the various sources of funds, and I'm going to focus on the two pie slices that are kind of pulled out there, the blue and the orange. Those are the both general funds. As you can see, the rest of the $3.2 billion cash budget are made up of water and wastewater fees, solid waste fees, our transportation trust fund, grants, and other special revenues. We can, of course, provide you with as much detail as you want. But then focusing on that $999 million, almost $1 billion of general fund money, that's primarily where the property taxes live, sales taxes, communication taxes. Those are our main taxing sources. They live in the general funds. And so the two biggest pieces you can see are the light blue, which are the constitutional officers, boards, and commissions, predominantly in that case the sheriff's budget, tax collector, and clerk. The other large slice of that pie is the orange slice, which is my departments, representing $398 million. Other pieces of this puzzle are funding to nonprofits and other non-departmental allotments. So then focusing on my budget, county administrative departments, again, you can see that public safety is the biggest part of what we do. It's the purple slice, almost 60% of what my folks do, broken into fire rescue, pet resources, medical examiner, and code enforcement. The next largest piece of the pie is self-sufficiency for individuals and families, which incorporates senior services, children's services, healthcare services, homeless, Sunshine Line veterans, and other areas where we are working hard to help people become self-sufficient, those who, for whatever reason, are at a point in their life where they can't, but we're committed to try and bring them to a place where they are self-sufficient and satisfied and happy and well, living well and employed and so forth. We then move to the life enrichment recreational opportunities, which is primarily parks and conservation and environmental land management. Public Works represents about 7.9% of the budget. And then the strong and sustainable local economy is made up of affordable housing, development services, economic development, and extension services. So that represents my county administrator portion of the budget. So I mentioned at the beginning that millage rates have not increased for a number of years and are not increased for next year's budget. So this just shows you with the red line going across the slide that millage has been essentially flat. We've reduced it a little bit every year, so that over the last 23 years, when you add up all the little reductions, it's about 3.4 mils. So the revenue has really come not from increases in rates, but from growth in the tax base since the end of the recession. And so those are the yellow bars, as you can see, growing pretty significantly. Next year, as I said, growth rates are projected in the 10% range, which are the highest since 2008. So that just kind of gives you a nice picture of really how the sources of funding are taking care of the needed expenditures for our community. So just quickly to look at how those revenues, those growth revenues, have been spent over the last few years is the next slide. And enhanced public safety is the largest expenditure of those growth monies at $113 million. Next is $96 million for transportation, public works, and facilities. So core services and core infrastructure, that's where we've spent the growth in property taxes and other sales taxes. Reserves, you have a board policy where we have to maintain reserves, which directly relates to our credit rating. So $77 million of that growth money has gone to reserves. $13 million for self-sufficiency, as I mentioned, for seniors, homeless, and social services. $13 million to ensuring that we continue to attract businesses and high-paying jobs. $10 million to parks and conservation, and $86 million for a variety of things, including maintenance of facilities, some funding for elected officials and outside agencies. So that basically represents how roughly $400 million in growth in taxable value has been spent over the past few years. So the point there, of course, is this is all core governmental services or economic development, and I believe this really demonstrates we have been good stewards of taxpayer money. So countywide taxable growth, again, is because it's such an important part of our budget, and it is what really drives our budget. It's important to understand, you know, we see the wild swings during the recession. We see the peaks and valleys. On average, if you look at the sort of, I guess it's kind of a turquoise line there, just above 5%, that represents the average annual growth in taxable value from 1998 through 2018, so basically for the last 20 years, at 5.6%. And if you condense that time period for the last 10 years, the average growth has been 1.3%. So the point here is that while we are seeing very high growth rates in the 10% region, on average, when you look over time, they do average out at about 5%. And that's the assumption that we've made in the pro forma going forward. And that's why it's so important that we keep reiterating that we know difficult times, challenging times are coming with the homestead exemption and all of the other needs that we have. And inevitably, you know, what we're seeing in this real estate economy will change. It can't be sustained at this level for a long period of time. So budget challenges, the pending homestead exemption, as we've talked about in workshops with you and in briefings, if it is approved by voters, would represent a $30 million loss in general fund revenue for us. We have placed a great reliance on general fund dollars to support our 10-year transportation plan. If the initiative that's underway to place a 1% sales tax on the ballot in November should pass, that would clearly make a big difference, positive difference, in the way that it affects our budget. We would no longer it would no longer be necessary to use the growth in general fund money to fund transportation. That would free up those property tax dollars for unmet needs like fire rescue, affordable housing, parks, and other needs that we have. And that's really the last part of this slide, the additional unfunded needs that we have here in the county. So the new sources, the growth money for FY19 is broken down on this slide. I'm looking at the total column, although it does show the split between countywide and unincorporated. But basically, those growth rates that I mentioned have produced about $98 million in new revenue. Right off the bat, about $17.2 million is going to constitutional officers and other agencies, leaving a total of $81 million. We have various mandates, contracts, commitments of $55 million, and there are slides that follow this that delve into the details. I had presented $8.8 million in priorities that I thought were important for next year. The board as well had identified $8.6 million in priorities, and that left $8 million that's currently unallocated. And as I explained to all of you in briefing, the main reason for that is that after we had begun putting together the recommended budget, the property appraiser gave us the final July 1st growth numbers, which added an additional $5 million for your ability to allocate in the future. But for purposes of the recommended budget, that $8 million is identified here as unallocated. Could be used for any number of things: public safety, transportation, affordable housing, children's services, homelessness. You could hold part of it back for the next budget, knowing that we're likely going to face some challenges. But we can discuss that more at reconciliation workshop. The additional slides then break down the contracts and commitments that you can see here. I'm not going to read them all. This separates the priorities that I recommended, primarily technology and public safety, some money for aging services, and the commissioner priorities there for transportation, ELAP, recreation and tourism, and that represents the priorities that we had gathered from all of you. So with that, the remaining budget calendar, there is a budget public hearing tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. here in this chambers. That's an optional public hearing that we schedule. The first required public hearing is September 13th, and the second required public hearing is September 20th. So we're not planning any other workshops or anything else between now and then, other than the fact that we do have the budget reconciliation workshop on July 26th. We are planning to present to you at your regular board meeting a recommendation report for affordable housing, as well as a report and recommendation for children's services, where we have some significant needs. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mike, for a very good presentation. Very much appreciate it. First commissioner in the queue is Commissioner White. You're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Merrill, as I was looking at those slides and hearing some of your forecasts, I couldn't help but think about the cost of growth issue that we've discussed so much. I couldn't help but think of the cost of growth issue that we've discussed so much. And, you know, as we have these surpluses, you know, each year that are a result of both increase in existing property values, but also new construction coming online, I just want to make sure that we're not stuck in a cycle of using those surpluses for, you know, commissioner projects that might, you know, amount to just bells and whistles that you would otherwise spend true surpluses on. So one thing I've been thinking about, and I want to get a feel from you of how difficult or on the flip side, how easy this might be. What are the odds that we could get at our land use meetings a financial impact to the county on land use decisions that we're being asked to make?
Individual items that come.
Each individual item, yes.
Yeah,
we would need the projected tax revenues as well
Sure.
for what we're approving, so that we can sort of get, you know, a bottom line feel for what the impact's going to be to our budget.
Right. Yes, that can absolutely be done. We've actually done that recently in a couple of items that have come before you.
Okay.
But you don't have a formal board policy that requires it.
So we could do that through board policy?
You could do it that way, or you could do it by item and just request that we bring for specific items.
And can staff get, can staff really add some, not for our use, but on their end, can staff add some complexity to the work and, you know, take a look at, you know, that new subdivision's potential share of any road widening that might be necessary 10, 20 years down the road, you know, maintaining the roads, you know, their impact on potential resurfacing. Obviously, water and sewer comes to mind, things like that.
Probably to a limited extent we could.
Okay.
Probably much more accurate to talk about the cost of services in general at that moment in time.
But we can, at least on some level, make transportation, though, a piece of that. Let me phrase this a different way. Infrastructure.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
So-
something I'd like to pursue if the board's interested in it, and I can work with staff on taking the next steps to schedule a commissioner item or something to begin to schedule that.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Actually, about 3 or 4 years ago at a land use meeting, I had proposed a checklist, this is before you were on the board, a checklist for transportation infrastructure, stormwater, all the infrastructure needs. But I didn't have a lot of consensus around wanting to do that. But certainly, I continue to be supportive because I think we need to be very transparent about the costs of infrastructure on these, any kind of land use project that we are proposing. I think it's very important to our constituents.
Sure, yeah, because it's great to say that, you know, that a new development's going to bring X number of dollars over, say, a 10-year period. But
Right.
if the county's going to turn around and spend more than that, then,
Right.
you know, we're just sort of not only spinning our wheels, but
Absolutely.
you know, continuing to sink. So
Absolutely.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and a lot of that depends on the level of services and so forth, but certainly we can do that.
Okay.
if
Thank you.
like.
Okay, Commissioner Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Merrill, the surplus of the $8 million, I don't know if you say you want to wait to discuss that at a workshop or to do it today.
In budget reconciliation.
Reconciliation workshop.
Next week.
Did you want to wait and discuss that there, or can I ask a question?
No, it's up to, I meant in terms of actually
all right.
allocating it.
What is your recommendation that we utilize that $8 million for? Some of it to increase our affordable housing, our children's services. I know that there's some issues there. Put some away for a rainy day fund because we don't know what's going to happen yet with the homestead exemption. We can only assume that they may pass. What would be your recommendation for that $8 million?
Well, we certainly have a lot of needs, public safety and others, but probably two of the more pressing needs that could actually benefit from a portion of that 8 million would be children's services and affordable housing. The needs in fire rescue are so great that to take $4 million to help would help, but it really wouldn't move the needle. That's a discussion. Fire rescue is a discussion for a different time that's going to require a much larger solution, as will stormwater and others. But and so I did mention we are bringing to you in August 2 reports and recommendations, one on affordable housing and one on children's services. So that's why I'm responding to you in that way, that those are the ones that I think we're really focused on. And of course, to the extent that we can leave a little bit on the table to help with the subsequent year. So, I mean, if the homestead exemption doesn't pass, and or the sales tax for transportation does pass, that will change the landscape for us entirely. That makes a lot of your decisions, our decisions together, about core services a lot easier, because it begins to free up general fund dollars that can be used for a lot of these needs. So really, waiting until after November to see the results is probably worth just the couple, 3 months of waiting.
Right.
So
I'm glad you said that. The one thing that I would not want to see done is that a portion of this $8 million be utilized for commissioner projects. I just think that that's the wrong move to make. I think we have desperate needs that you mentioned, 2 right off the top of your head, being affordable housing and children's services. And possibly looking and waiting for the additional monies to see what happens with the transportation initiative. They're trying to go to the ballot, and specifically the mine just went blank. That's what happened.
The homestead exemption.
Yeah, homestead exemption. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would stand on that. I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
And Commissioner Miller, I agree with you. I think Mr. Merrill should come to us with what he recommends, how we use that, and it not be a spending spree here at the board. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be wanting to bring forward, and it's a commissioner's item, but I also think it's a critical need, and that is more funding for transit, because I don't think we do know where this initiative will go in any way, and if something does change, we can change accordingly at that time. But I just wondered why, I know you didn't present the second part of the, and
we can, sure.
I'm sorry?
We can if you like.
I think it's critical, because what we're seeing here, and what I have found over and over again, the first part, and I've asked about this before with the pies, again, doesn't separate our 2 big general funds, and there's a different story with each of those. We have our general unincorporated fund and our general countywide fund. Our general countywide fund is seeing surpluses. Our general unincorporated fund is seeing very serious deficits. And when we talk about fire rescue, that's going to be an unincorporated fund issue. And when we talk about other things, that's our countywide. So I see this as 2 extraordinarily different stories, and really critically important for the public to know and for us to think about. So I would like to see, yes.
Sure.
That would be.
Okay. We did, by the way, break down for you the countywide general fund. They're in the exhibits that you're referring to in the back, and I've got one of them up on the screen. We took the general fund and broke it into the two funds. But so going back to the first, so some of these, I think some of these you've seen in prior workshops earlier this year, where Kevin Brickey, our economist, forecasts the fund balances in both of the general funds based on assumptions, based on growth rates. So slide 15, I think, is the first one, yeah. Basically shows that, as you were referring to, without the impact of the homestead exemption or without funding any of our master plan needs over the 5 years, There is surplus in the countywide fund, which is the blue, and slight deficit in the unincorporated fund. So again, it just highlights the fact the homestead exemption makes a big difference. Then kind of stepping to a different point of view, looking at the impact of the proposed homestead exemption without funding master plans, we begin to see the surpluses in the countywide fund declining and seeing the deficits in the unincorporated fund increasing, as you would suspect. And then the final is passage of the homestead exemption and fully funding our master plans, which would be fire rescue, parks, stormwater, and affordable housing, and conservation really pretty much wipes out any surpluses in the countywide and drives significant deficits in the unincorporated fund. And so again, these were slides we had shown you earlier in the year, but they do really visually show what the challenges are going forward. And of course, as I said, we split the countywide general fund and the unincorporated fund into their respective uses. And so countywide, the largest portion of that cost is for constitutional boards and commissions, and $162 million of it represents my departments. So I think those were the only, oh, I'm sorry. And then we had the reserves. So earlier, or at the beginning, I stated that we've met our reserve requirements. When you combine both general funds, the 23.8% at the end and the 17.5 together, they average about 20%. So we've met our requirement there. And this just shows you how our reserve funds have sort of played out over a period of time since 2007. This just breaks it down into a table. So those were the additional exhibits that we provided. And of course, the budget, which you have, has a lot more detail. The citizens' budget and brief is actually at the printer today, so that'll be ready today or tomorrow. That takes the large budget, condenses it down to a more readable document for the community. But it's also interesting because it has a lot of measurable outcomes in terms of service that we provide across the board. So it's a really helpful document to get your hands around the budget. So that'll be available later today or tomorrow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate this additional information. I really wanted that to be presented. I do have a question here because I know we had some discussion about reserves.
Yes.
And the reserve funds have been more substantial, the backup for reserves from the countywide funds than from the unincorporated funds. And I thought we were going to start shifting that there was some discussion about shifting that and making the reserves that were allocated to match a fund. But it doesn't look like that when we look at this projection. Can you speak to that a little?
We have begun to do that. I'm going to ask Tom to talk about that. He's got more background on that than I do.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Fessler, Management Budget Department. The challenge that we're having in the unincorporated fund, again, is that's where we have the majority of our service challenges. So when we look at the fire rescue department and the needs there, we just opened a new fire station. That's a challenge to continue to fund that. But the big thing that's really impacting our reserves in the unincorporated fund would be the 10-year transportation policy. So that policy calls for increased funding every year for a 10-year period. And so as we make those commitments, it does become difficult to basically increase reserves in the unincorporated fund. We have stabilized them, as you can see, over the last several years, but in order to increase them, that would mean we'd have to offset something else. And when we have the transportation policy, we're doing everything we can every year to meet those targets.
That's fine. I just wanted to see that continue to occur and see how we can work on that. So thanks for the explanation.
And that would be another business decision, whether to take some or all of that $8 million that's uncommitted and restore the unincorporated funds reserve balance. That's another option as well.
But are those funds unincorporated funds or not?
Some of them. They are? Oh, I'm sorry, they're countywide. My mistake.
Thank you.
Never mind.
Yeah, and it's becoming more clear, excuse me, about the growing issues and deficits and infrastructure needs in the county. Yet most of our revenue is in countywide, where it goes to a much broader base, not exactly outside in the county, where we have 1 million people outside the city limits that need fire, sheriff, water, roads, everything else. So,
Well, it reflects the growth patterns. And
yeah, it does.
Again, it gets to land use issues in terms of providing service and
It does,
moving
absolutely.
to more
Well,
dense growth. But
If I could just say too.
Okay.
Thank you. It also reflects the differentiation in our millage in those two areas.
Right. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick point with respect to Commissioner White's suggestion as far as identifying the revenues, I guess, cost and infrastructure commitments from developers. Regarding the private sector or developer commitments, we used to do that. In fact, we had a manual that was put out. At one point, it was near $1 billion of developer agreed upon commitments for infrastructure, and we used to pat ourselves on the back and saying, hey, we're holding these guys accountable. And the reality is it didn't mean anything. Once the economy went south, most of those developments never occurred. And so I just want to caution ourselves on I fully support getting that information. I think more information the better. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to necessarily hold up. It's all dependent on the economy and how things are moving forward. So I just want to say we've done that in the past, at least with respect to the developer commitments, but it's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily hold the weight of what it's written on. So.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and it's really become more of a challenge in the last few years since the state legislature changed the rules on proportionate share and other things. So now, a development may meet its own specific requirements for infrastructure in its own little spot, but that doesn't take into account the impact on everything else around it. So it might not give a true picture.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Christ, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Merrill, thank you for your report. First of all, in response to what my colleague Stacy White was saying about the infrastructure, I agree with him. I'd like to take it one little step further, and I think part of our infrastructure, of course, is the roads, the stormwater, the sewer, the sidewalks, but I really believe we have an extensive park system and recreation system that is in dire need of care and maintenance. And I'm getting a lot of, and I'm sure others here is as well, getting a lot of complaints from constituents about the lack of quality in our ball fields and some of our recreation parks. When we move forward in doing our assessments and our planning with the infrastructure, I would like to see the park areas that have been developed out, the care and maintenance included as well. Going back to the additional dollars that may be available, when you and I met earlier in the week and you briefed me on this, at that time I said to you that my #1 priority for those dollars would be to put what we needed towards affordable housing. We had a lengthy discussion about that, and you assured me that you would make every earnest effort to try to reach the goal and objective that we were trying to achieve for affordable housing. I'm glad to see that came forward in your presentation today, and that there's a lot of interest up here at the board in supporting that as well. Yeah, we did. It was a good discussion we had, and
And so I think it is important, and we wanted you to see Cheryl Howell's recommendation so it could be put into context, but clearly a huge need.
Thank you.
Commissioner Higginbotham, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I just can't stress enough, and I know that, as I've said several times, and at least once today, that I'll be leaving soon, but we need to protect those reserves. I know I've coveted those reserves during my time here. Let me back up and just say to you and staff and Bonnie, Tom, great job on this presentation, and I've watched it through the years as you've refined it and lasered in on the questions that we all have had here. But be very careful how we start moving or wanting to address our reserve accounts. As far as this extra money, the $8 million, I'm aware of all the needs from affordable housing to our first responders, but we need to make sure that that goes in the right direction. And the wild card, of course, is what will happen with the homestead exemption increase. And my recommendation would be, as you've discussed, is to wait and see what happens in November. But good job on this budget, and I know that I was talking with Devin this morning at breakfast that budget time over the last several years has been real stressful, and this one, because of economy, and the way you guys are handling it is much easier. So thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Great. Well, very good presentation, good questions. I think we're very fortunate to have the economy in good shape right now. I know we're still far behind probably where we were back in 2007, but we're getting there. But I think the challenges ahead of just answering these needs of infrastructure are going to be really critical. And it's us having to balance those needs against, what we consider priorities against the infrastructure needs are going to be really paramount in future decisions. So thank you. Good presentation. Thank you. I think we just have one item left. Item G1.
Okay. Okay.
It's okay if she goes.
Waiting to hear.
Okay.
Dr. Jenkins, Head Start, Early Head Start Department. Your Head Start Department continues to do well, some measurable outcomes. The children are attending at 86%, and this is for June, which is pretty well. Your Policy Council group decided to take a month off, so this is a free period for them. We've moved forward in hiring a couple of new staff, and most of these centers are preparing for the end of the year celebrations. So, I'm happy to report it continues to go well.
Very
I can
good.
answer any questions.
And motion to receive. Motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Kemp to receive the report on item G1. Thank you very much for everything you're doing to help our kids. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
That just leaves any future issues.
Future issues. Commissioner Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been a lot of discussion, and I really it didn't dawn on me until I started looking and researching and seeing what other municipalities are doing concerning the recycling of plastic straws. That has become a real serious issue throughout this country and probably around the world. And I would like to have our staff come back, if at all possible, not the next meeting, but the second meeting in August, to kind of give us a briefing on the difficulties, if we have any, and how we recycle plastic straws. Though a lot of them are missed in these recycling plants or whatever the case may be, and then they go into no telling where they go. One of the things I saw was a plastic straw that stuck in the head of a turtle. That was pretty gross to watch. But I'd like to find out where we are, what we're doing, and what, if we have any difficulties, if we're not having difficulties, what Hillsborough County is doing better than probably some other folks. We might find out that we're not, and we may need to take action on that. So if you have staff bring back at our second meeting in August, some information report, I would appreciate it very much.
Okay, we'll do it.
Actually, that's a great item because I was talking with some people in the city, and I think they've had a presentation about this. They also looked at plastic bags in addition to the straws, if you don't mind adding that into it. But I want to tell you, it's a huge, huge deterrent in the process. And if you could see the thousands of pounds of plastic that are not getting through the system, I mean, it's amazing. So I know the city's looking at it also. Commissioner Kim? Oh, no, Commissioner Higginbotham, you're next.
Thank you.
You're
And on the plastic straws, I sit on the agency for Bay Management Board, and at our last meeting, we had a presentation by a group that's heading that up over in Pinellas. And I cannot remember the young man's name or the organization, but I know we could find that in the minutes, and that might be helpful for staff to go back and take a look at that, to either use them as a resource or have them come in here and make a presentation.
Very good idea. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
I thank you, Commissioner Miller, for raising that. And I also thank you, Commissioner Murman, for adding the plastic bags. I've been watching the whole plastic bag issues around the world for a decade at least. We are preempted, amazingly, by the Florida legislature from dealing with our plastic bags, but I think it may be time for us. Maybe we could at least pass a resolution of some sort. Maybe we could do a strong recommendation and support for retailers that actually take action on their own. So I'd like to look at all those possibilities and see how we can move with that.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other business come before us? We are adjourned. Thank you all.